All right, we're live, Andrew. How you doing, man? Thank you for
I'm
coming back on
I'm
my
doing
show.
well, brother. How you doing?
Oh, I'm great, man. Just
Congratulations, huh? You're new
yeah,
West,
yeah.
huh? Look at you, bud. Locked
just
down now.
just yesterday, man. I
Good for
just did
you.
that.
My God, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna do next month. We're gonna do like a whole reception and party kind of thing too. But
Okay.
yesterday was just we wanted that date because that was our anniversary date kind of thing. So
Okay. Yeah, I understand that.
yeah, so it's good, man. We had a good time yesterday, and I was just
Good
like,
for you.
what? I can still come on here, do a live show. I like to stay consistent and just continue to grow the channel and stuff too, man. So
Yeah.
like having guys on like you, man. You got damn good
Hey,
stories.
how's Sal doing?
Oh, he's good, man. We just got done with that show. We did our part. We made
Okay.
I don't know, maybe like 80 episodes or whatnot. But that's why now when I'm doing these shows and stuff, it's just me. I'm doing my Invest in Yourself podcast stuff, and
Yeah, the Investing in Yourself podcast I like. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's
just
nice. And the thing
we
with Sal is excellent. I mean, Sal's
yeah.
got some really good content.
Right, a lot of mob stories and stuff like that, so
Yeah.
but yeah, my main focus and stuff, I always I like to hear the criminal stories and all the stuff like that, historical and all that, but then once we get towards the end, I'd really like to cover the whole redemption aspect of things and stuff and, you
Yeah,
know
the whole idea is it goes full circle. It does.
Right.
It goes full circle. And that's what this life is. Even the guys that are still in the life and they're still in it, their lives have changed. Everything is morphosized. You know.
I know. I wonder, like a lot of the stuff. I mean, there's a few guys that have came out recently, like John Panisi. He's probably maybe the most recently one, like 2018. So I'm kind
Yeah.
of curious to see what these guys are doing and stuff now. But you've been out how many years?
Oh, it's been a long time now. Now, I got out 2001. I got
Okay,
out,
yeah. So
and so it's been a number of years, and it flew by. I can't even begin to tell you. Like I think back on it, and I'm like, where the fuck did it go? Like 20 years was the blink of an eye. Like and hey, listen, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful. With the second chance I got, and trying to make the best of it. That's all.
yeah, that's what's important, man. Making the change and continuing to live life and be done with it, and just do whatever you can to do your part to help out and
Yeah,
be a
exactly. Whatever,
function in
whatever you
society.
can do. Listen, you're not going to change the world, brother. But the whole
No,
idea is when people like to, pick your brain and they like a story or whatever. If there's something in it that somebody can get from it, great. You
right,
know,
exactly. No,
even
and see,
better.
to give people a little background and stuff, and I've had Andrew on my show a couple times, then the show with myself, and then the show with Sal. So this, a little background on him. Andrew, he was an associate of the Gambino family for a number of years. He wrote a book, and he's been on a number of podcasts and stuff like that too. But he's got a really good redemption story, and he's got a lot of good, interesting stories from back in the day of his life and how he went into prison, and also how he was just doing a lot of work for a lot of different guys. Besides the whole Gotti people, like we were talking before we went on, like you were around a lot of different names of guys that don't really get the notoriety or the newspaper articles,
Yeah,
but
Gotti got all the headlines, and so
mhm,
be it. He was the boss. But the bottom line is, there's all of these spokes in the wheel that make that life what it is. And there's guys who never got a headline, guys who were notorious, guys who were gangsters through and through, since they're kids. And you think about it, there's a lot of other guys there that were just, you know, doing their thing, but they just never got caught up in it. Some guys like to stay low key. They want to walk out the back door. They'll, like my guy. We'll talk about Nicky Corozzo for a second. Nicky Corozzo hated the limelight. That guy was low key as they could be. We would go somewhere. He'd walk in, and then when he's getting ready to leave, he would say, "Listen, give me a baseball hat. Give me your jacket." And he would change his whole outfit to walk outside because he didn't want to be followed. He didn't want that. And
yeah,
we
you can
picked
see
up
the
on that.
difference.
When you're around it all the time, you pick up on that behavior.
And see, he was Nicky Corrazzo, he was with the Gambinos, he was another faction inside of it, like, you had the Gotti faction, and then Nicky
Yeah.
Corrazzo was his own, and
Well,
kinda
Nicky and John got a long history. I mean, they were friends as children, and they were both around Fat Andy when they were younger, and Nicky stayed with Fat Andy, and John moved down to Danny Waggins in Queens, and that's just the way that transpired. But they were around each other for many, many, many years.
And would you say these guys were kind of polar opposites in the sense of?
I would say not. I would say pull up. As far as that, see,
Mhm.
John, he wore it. This is who I am. You take it, you leave it. Great. Nicky was trying to have a little bit. He was thinking about longevity. He was thinking about getting away with these things, staying low, staying humble, staying quiet. Whatever works for the individual. Everybody's different. Everybody's
Right.
personality is different. You
Right.
know.
And for the people listening and watching, if you have any questions or anything you want to ask me or Andrew, please feel free to. We're just going to continue. I'm going to ask Andrew a bunch of questions, just like how I would always do with Sal. And then if there's people that want to come in and comment and ask questions, just feel free. We'll answer whatever you got. And yeah, I'll just continue to ask. Well, there is some stuff here actually already.
Go ahead.
Pasquale says, "What's up, Adrian? How you doing?" Well, thank you, Pasquale. I'm doing great, man. Really good. Just got married yesterday. Sean here says, "Good morning from Madison. How you doing, man?" He said he loves the Italian names and the nicknames. Did you have one, Andrew?
No, you know what? It's funny. My friends used to call me Drew.
Drew.
Nicky himself used to call me Good News. That came
Good.
from a guy in our crew. His name was Ralphie Davino. May he rest in
Uh-huh.
peace. I know Ralphie passed away, but Ralphie Davino, we used to call him Ralphie Fly. Ralphie Fly gave me the name Good News because Ralphie used to collect, Shylock loans. So I had money out on the street, and Ralphie would come to my house and just say it was a Friday or whatever. He'd come by, and he'd call my house before he would come by, and he would go, "Hello, Drew. Have any good news for me? Hello,
Oh
good
man.
news." And so it stuck for a little bit, but yeah. But for the most part, my friends called me Drew.
Yeah, that's what I was curious. I was as well because when I seen that comment, I was thinking back to the book, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I remember you like putting that in the book at all, like a nickname and or whatnot. Because I
A
guess you
lot of
didn't.
guys, they'll name their names will dictate a nickname. Like
Mhm.
if they have certain names, like you think about it, and then they'll give him like my uncle, his last name. They said Mac, so Patty Mac. I had other friends of mine where their last name was something, and they called Beansy, this one, that one. Everybody. It is what it is. It's just you familiarize with somebody, you become friends with them. It's an easier way to let other people know who you're talking about without mentioning their names.
Right. Yeah, a
Like,
lot of deception and stuff. I don't want to come out and say
yeah, well,
names.
that was big. The deception part of it is very big.
Yeah.
You're trying to do it like with Nicky. We never called Nicky by his name.
What'd you
Nicky, we
call
used
him?
to call him in our immediate crew. We used to call him Seymour.
Seymour? How
Yeah,
come?
that was
Oh,
between our crew. Nobody outside the crew called him Seymour. They used to call him Little Nicky. And
oh,
but our immediate crew, we used to call him Seymour.
who came up with that one?
Well, I don't know the full backstory on it because I was, everybody else was a little older than me when I first came around. I was about 17 at the time, and I remember, um, I think somebody said something. There was a place called Seymour's 9000. It was a club or something like that. I don't remember the full backstory. I don't want to give false information, but yeah, everybody, we're gonna go see Seymour. What's so funny? Listen to this. I was so young. We were at an event. I think we were at a New Year's Eve party or something. And I was with back then. I was with my son's mother, and it was so many years ago. And I introduced her to Nicky. And being I was so green, I didn't know whether to give his real name or not. So I introduced her to him as Seymour. He called me later on. He grabbed me. He goes, "You introduced me to her as Seymour? What the fuck is wrong with you?" And I laughed. And I couldn't stop laughing the whole night. I was a kid, but I didn't know. I didn't know any better.
No, I mean, yeah, it's in that life. I mean, you don't know what to. I don't know. It's just you got to be careful with everything, right? Like you don't want everyone knowing code names
Yeah.
or all this kind of shit. And it's just it is what it is. But yeah, lesson learned, right?
But that was funny. It's a funny story to think of. It's like I didn't know how to introduce him. Like I was afraid to give his real name. As a kid, you don't want to make a mistake, But in reality, I should have just gave him his real name. But I was
Yeah,
overthinking it. Think of it
yeah,
that way.
right. When you remember my dad joined in, he said, "Good morning, bada bing."
Bada
You ever
bing.
wa- you ever watch The Sopranos?
You know what I did when it first came out? I did. I watched a number of episodes. They used some truth facts of things that really happened, you know,
Right.
in organized crime circles.
Hmm.
Like, they had the boss, one of the captains in the family. They found out that he was, you know, a homosexual at the time. This that they did have a boss who
Really?
was. They wind up killing him because of it.
What
Um,
family? Or
that
who
was
was
with
the
the
guy?
Cavalcanti family in Jersey.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn. So that was true.
So some other things like they showed them chopping up guys. Of course they're trying to revert back to like Roy DeMeo and them.
Hmm.
Um, hey, those guys got out. My God, Joey and Anthony,
They're both out.
37 years. What is it? 37 years incarcerated.
See,
Yeah,
I was getting comments and questions like from past stuff that I was doing with Sal, and we did a show about Roy DeMeo's crew, and he talked
yeah.
about those guys, and like that video only ended up getting over like 100,000 views, and like it was insane. Like the comments and stuff, they're like, "Oh, this Anthony's getting out," and then now they're saying Joey's getting out. They're like, "Yeah," because that was like almost like 5 6 months
Well,
ago when we
listen.
did it.
Let's put it this way: no matter what they did, it's a lifetime ago. I mean, it's a lifetime ago. You know, if anybody's been incarcerated, they know after 15, 20 years, it's a wrap. You're not the same person, even if you wanted to be. Life just grabs a hold of you. Circumstances change. You pick up illnesses or whatever. You get a little older. You know what? Let them move on with life, and that's it. I'm sure the families of the victims, whatever, that's another story. But anybody who does 30 or some odd better years, it's time to go home.
And see, who knows is what they I don't know, man. Like going to prison for that long and stuff. It's
The
right.
mindset you would
The
think,
mindset.
you're away for so long, you would say to yourself, well, are you institutionalized or this, that, the other thing?
Mhm.
But you know what? They got families. Let them be with their families, and I'm sure they're just gonna, they're older now. So what are you gonna do?
Well, yeah,
70
so I was
years
gonna
old,
say,
you go and enjoy your life. You know, get this is a second chance in life, brother. Go and enjoy it. You know,
how much time did you do? Because you're speaking from
you know my
experience.
my the first time I did 5 years, the second time I did 4 years. So 9 years, 10 years, somewhere around there.
So you could tell it changed you, like you felt that mindset.
It changes everybody a little bit. Sometimes depending upon what you go through, it opens your eyes a little bit clearer to what's around you. Other times, I see people, they get bitter, they get upset, they get this, they get that. Everybody walks a different path, Adrian. So everybody has a different take on it. It hits certain people a different way. It really does. Not
Right.
everybody who does time does good time. A lot of people, the time does them, if that makes sense.
When they're doing that, you by that you mean like they're just miserable kind of thing when the
Yeah, in
time's
other
on
words,
them.
the time is doing them. Like they can't focus. And then when you walk away from this and you get released, and say you're not a part of that lifestyle anymore, you're not involved in an organized crime family or something like that. A lot of guys have trouble, reinventing themselves. They have trouble adapting. They have trouble um, going to work, and they can't identify with the new person. They can only identify with who they used to be, and that's very sad, because what happens is if you get stuck in that past, you have no future.
Right.
You have to be able to make your way, whatever it may be, and understand that you're not that person no more. Of course, your past could always, you could always turn the corner and you're going to come head to head with your past. Hey, listen, it could happen to anybody, and you just got to face it head on. But for the most part, if you want to go out and you want to start working and doing these things, a lot of guys have trouble with it. They really do. And that's why guys go back to prison. The guys get in trouble. They wind up committing crimes down the line because they can't adapt. Because it's very hard, especially if you're starting from scratch again. It's very, very hard.
Yeah, and especially if you lived your life that whole way for all the numbers of years,
Yeah,
man. Then now you're trying
because
to make the change.
yeah, and not only that, you don't have those resources anymore that you used to have. Now you're
Hmm.
doing everything, living in a place where nobody knows you, and you got to start all over and do everything. And you know,
But that's why I do these interviews and stuff to like prove that that does exist. Like, say in your situation,
it does, but it's challenging. And
right?
if I wouldn't tell you what's challenging, I'd be lying to you. is very, very challenging. Every day is a challenge because when you're faced with any sort of adversity, the first instinct of any human is to go back to what you know, what worked,
Hmm.
things
What
that.
worked?
So it's very, very easy to fall off the horse. The whole
Right.
idea is you have to have it in your mind what's important and what's not. Is it important for you to do this, or is it more important to be there for your family and don't slip anymore? Because you know what, your family sacrificed for many, many years for the things that you did,
Hmm.
and the time you were away, and now it's time for you to actually be a part of their lives in the way that you weren't previously. You
Right.
know, if you could keep that mindset, you're okay. But everybody, like this, I go through the challenges every day, still to this day, and I've been out a long time.
What keeps you like grounded? Like, what do you when you're feeling that temptation?
You know what? I think about, what wins do I have? There's no wins. I think about the FBI, and I think about all the tools they have at their fingertips, and I think about all of these things. You can't get away with nothing anymore. You're driving your car down the street. You're going every street. There's a camera. They have the police pass you by. They have plate readers. They don't even have to be behind you. They know which cars in
Right.
the area have warrants out, have insurance not paid, this, that. Where you gonna go? What
I
are you gonna
seen
do?
I seen some mind changing shit the other day too. Was like I was on a run just doing a jog, and I looked up in the sky and I seen maybe it was like 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and I looked up and there was this drone
Yeah,
just flying around, and I'm like, "What the hell?" And then I look. My buddy told me like a few weeks ago that the police posted that they got this new equipment to where they got a drone that can fly around at night and just watch stuff and check it out and just fly
yeah.
around. And
Now,
just
now, could you imagine that? They got a drone that can count the hairs on your ass. What are you gonna do? Like, give me a break. So when these guys think they're out there reinventing the wheel, listen, wherever there's gonna be money, there's gonna be somebody who's tempted to make a move, and that's just human nature. So you're still gonna have guys who commit crimes, and that's their business. If they want to go that route. But understand this: it's gonna be a long, hard road because there's gonna come a time where you're gonna have to pay the piper for it, and when you do what you got to do. You're
right.
not gonna get away with it. You may get away with it for a moment, but you're not gonna get away with it for long term. Won't be
Yeah, in the
long.
long run. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go through and see if there's just a couple questions here.
Go
Anybody
ahead.
got some questions? Let's see. Steve Roden, also known as Stevie Bullets, he says, "Yo, yo, what up? Here, always some good content." Well, thank you. I had him on my show. He was in Chicago and he was a former gangster and stuff. And he has a
Okay.
really good story. He changed his life around and everything, but he got shot, I think, 11 times and
Oh my God.
went to jail a whole lot of times. But again, another guy that has changed his life around that. No, he's probably understands what you're talking about, man, and just like what you're talking about, the daily temptations and everything. But he's a good guy, man. He said, "Congratulations on your marriage." Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Steve. Hope you've been doing good, man. Let's see here. Oh yeah, no problem, man. He said thanks for having that chip on. That was back when me and Sal were doing the show together. He gave him a poker chip from Sal's movie, The Sinatra Club,
Oh,
just like
okay.
a
Yeah, 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 yeah.
movie
He had
prop.
some cards too, or something.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah, there was some
Sinatra Club
cards.
cards and stuff. Yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah,
glad you
it's
got
got
it.
a lot of history, which is nice because he had the club there, and he had a lot of wise guys go there, a lot of knockaround guys going there. So it's a nice piece of history.
It is, yeah, and then people liked him, we sold him, and, that's just what we did. Let's see, Big Pen Fitness, congratulations on getting married. Well, thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in. Let's see, Morrissey Boy says, "Good morning, friends." Morning, man. Let's see. Here's one right here for you. He said, "Andy, know anyone connected from, KC? Kansas City, maybe?"
Kansas City? No, no. As a matter of fact, I never came across anybody, even in the federal system. I never came across anybody from Kansas City. I don't know. I do know that they had a long history of organized crime activity out there. Um, there was a law enforcement guy I met many, many years later who
Gary
does a lot of
Jenkins?
yeah,
Yep,
nice man. Oh, he's
yep.
a great guy.
He
Really,
is.
really nice man. And I did a few interviews with him, and I met. I was out in Vegas and years ago, and we did a it was like a talk. It was sort of
Right.
like a little talk thing there. It was really, really nice. and I met a few other people from across the country there with different stories. There was a woman there. Um, she was, I don't know if you know the story about Farito, the guy
I don't
from,
think I do.
what was it, Cleveland.
And what was he like, an active guy that, or
He
did
was an
she just
active
write a book?
guy. He was one of the guys, I think, who was trying to kill the Irish kid, the Irish guy.
Oh, Killing the Irishman. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you met.
And that was a great story, you know,
So
when
she
you
wrote
think
a book
about it.
about
Yeah,
him or something.
yeah, that was a great story. And they wrote a book. Yes, I met his wife, um, and a few other people along the way, from other uh, California guys who are
Hmm.
out in California.
Well,
My friend Kenji's got a long history with the California family.
yeah, yeah. And I just reached out to him because I was thinking about bringing him on to do like a live show, like what me and you are doing, actually. So I'm waiting to hear
Yeah,
back from
Kenji's
him,
got a
man. He's
good
cool.
story. I mean, he was around those guys for many, many years out there. And then he went into New York and he was around the Colombo family for a short time.
Right.
And so, and he started his career out. He was a drug mule. He was running drugs back and forth, getting on the plane with drugs. Like years ago, guys were, they were brazen. They were doing it that way. You can't get away with that shit no more.
Yeah. No, no way, man. It's a whole different
Yeah,
game. You
yeah.
can't do
But
that.
years ago, they were getting away with it.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, but no, that Kansas City comment that you're talking about too, like Gary Jenkins, like he gave me a live show, like or not like a live, but we went around and he gave me a tour on all these areas that these mob guys were hanging out at and stuff, and where they got busted and stuff. So that's up on my channel. So if you guys want to check it out, all you gotta look up is like Kansas City Mob Tour with Gary Jenkins, Invest in Yourself podcast, and there's probably like 8 or 10 clips that'll pop up, and it was cool. He's good, man. He's got a lot of
Yeah,
full of
yeah, he's
knowledge,
got a
man.
lot of knowledge. He was an investigator for many, many years, so he got the inside track on what was going on out there. And then he did a lot of stuff on like the Skim and on the Vegas mob and stuff like that with Spilatro and those guys and
Yeah,
what they were doing back in the day. Um, as you can see, you won't see that stuff no more. Now the crimes are all going to be cyber crimes. You're going to get a lot of identity theft shit, stuff like that.
right.
A lot of fraud stuff you'll get now. You
Yeah,
get a
I
lot
could
of
see
fraud
that.
activity. Yeah,
Yeah, internet
that's
scams and shit.
yeah, because you're in the computer age now. You know,
Yep,
everything is done through push of a button now. You know, so you'll see a
that's
lot of
true.
that. I seen not too long ago that kid, the one who I don't know his name, but he was doing like the Bitcoin stuff,
Uh-huh.
and he went to
And
jail. They gave that kid like 25 years.
did he? And did
Yeah,
he?
they rocked that kid's world. They gave him 25 years.
Well, they're trying to set an example, I'm sure, too, for all that, because it's not as violent of a crime, but it's just stealing
Yeah, but now
millions.
they have like I don't know if you already know about the federal system, but the federal system, what they have is they have guidelines.
Mhm.
They have guidelines, for certain crimes. If it's a white collar crime, the guidelines will be, of course, category one if you're a first time offender or whatever. But it also goes by the amount of money stolen or the amount of money taken,
Oh, so they go
and
by that.
they go by that as well, and that's going to dictate how much time you do.
Yeah. Well, we got another question here for you from Lex. He said, "Hey guys, how did maybe he meant join? How did you join? Or let's see, how did Jojo Corozzo feel about driving John around?"
Jojo Corozzo, listen to me carefully. Jojo Corozzo was a big, big money earner. Huge, huge. I don't know where you're sitting, Adrian, but the room you're in, he could probably fill it to the fucking ceiling with $100 bills.
Really?
Okay? So John had Joe around because Joe's got a lot of knowledge. He had a huge crew of guys. Okay? Made a ton of money in his life. And he was a low-key guy. Okay? And I remember one day I was talking with Nicky, and we were joking around, and we were in the club one day, and my brother was lending out lunch money in school. He goes, that's how long ago he was making money.
Always
So
a hustler.
yeah, he was a hustler, and he was a big, big money guy, and God bless him. He's in his 80s now, and He did his thing, and if the boss wants you to drive him around, you drive him around. What's the big deal? It isn't like JoJo needed the money.
No,
That I
not
can
at
tell
all.
you.
It doesn't sound
In
like
my
it.
humble opinion, he had more money than John. In my opinion,
Wow.
but you know, it is what it is. But so I think that he just did what he was asked to do, and having him around is a knowledge in itself. So I'm sure John utilized that in the past. Having JoJo around.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, you put around, you want to be around guys that are gonna, in any kind of form, if you want to grow as a human or grow in business wise, like you want to be around guys that are gonna better you
Yeah.
and help you benefit
Business
you.
wise, JoJo was a very, very sharp man. Very, very sharp guy. Very shrewd. Um, and for all the times I've been in his company, I've been around him, if he said 5 words, it was a lot.
Hmm, really, just that's all you need to say.
Yeah. He just said what he needed to say and he kept it moving. And and his family, I lived on the block there, where his kids when we were growing up. And his wife and his family, they treated me very well. They were really, really nice people.
Yeah, I mean, you were around a lot of these other people, and with this crew, I mean, you would have been around the whole crew and stuff. So yeah, you would have
Yeah.
been, you know. Here, let's see, another congratulations here. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Let's see. My dad's in here again. He's commenting. He said that good news is cool. And I have a cousin named Payday. He was born on his dad's payday. You were
Yeah.
talking about your nickname earlier.
Yeah. Well, Ralphie was a ball breaker. Ralphie was uh, if
Which
you look
one?
back at one of Nicky's cases, Ralphie got arrested with Nicky on the beach in Florida on their
And
Florida case.
what was
Uh,
Ralphie's full name?
Ralphie Davino. Nice,
Okay.
nice man. Ralphie was a good guy. He was a lot of fun, Ralphie. And Ralphie, you know, he was a character. So, he used to drive a yellow Cadillac. He had rose-colored sunglasses. He was the only guy in our crew who was allowed to wear a mustache because he was
Really?
bald. So Nicky allowed him to wear a mustache.
Yeah, I guess that's true. You don't really
Nobody else
see.
could have a mustache. I don't know if you know those rules back in the day. There was no facial
I've
hair.
heard it. No,
And
that's
they always say
interesting.
only drug dealers have facial hair. Drug dealers and FBI agents.
And this guy apparently too. He made the exception.
Yeah, they made the exception for Ralphie because he was bald.
Pete here says, Andrew, was your uncle Pasquale Patty Mac? Ah, fuck. You see how you say that last name?
Naturally.
Yeah, was that your uncle?
Yeah.
And what
Well,
family was he
if
with,
you
and who
if you
was he?
go down the family line, he's my cousin. But because
Oh,
of the age difference,
wow.
me and my sisters growing up called him Uncle Patty.
Yeah, and see, I got family member just like that in the same situation. It's just sometimes the age gap is different, but yeah, I see
Yeah,
why you call it that
yeah.
because they're
And he
older.
was
You
Uncle
call it out
Patty.
of
And he
respect.
was he was he was my father's godfather.
Oh, damn, really?
Yeah, he christened my father.
Wow. Well, so what family did he end up going with then?
He was with the Genovese crime family.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah. He was the boss with them, back in the 60s and 70s.
so with your family, how many family members did you really have in the life
In
that
the
you can
life,
recall?
I
Yeah,
had a few, a
a
few,
few.
yeah, a few family members. Well, you gotta remember, not to the extent that he was or I was, but knock around guys, street guys, stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Just like
Um,
associate kinda thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
And then
he was a high ranking member in the Genovese family for many years.
so how come you wouldn't go to Genovese? What was
He
the
died.
difference?
He died when I was very young. I was 12,
Oh,
13 years old when he died.
yeah.
So
No way you're getting
yeah, so
involved with his life.
it was a few years. It was like a 4 year difference. I started going around Nicky. I was 16, just turning 17.
Yeah. Just a young
So
kid then.
I was a young kid. So it was a few years. Had he been alive, there was no question about it. I would have probably been with the Genovese crew. Years
Mhm.
later, I did a lot of business with the Genovese guys. As a matter of fact, we had an eclectic crew of guys in our bank robbery crew, and there was 3 guys from the Genovese crew, 1 guy from the Banana crew, and me with the Gambinos.
Yeah.
And so I was around the Genovese guys for a while. I got along with them really well. Um, There's a guy's name was Sal DeMeo. Sal DeMeo, he was the wise guy in that crew. What He was the boss of the guys that I was stealing with. Hell of a guy, really really nice. Now he was a gentleman's gentleman. He was a really really nice man, and I I would have loved to have been around Sal. As a matter of fact, years later, I tried to get released from the Gambino family because
Really?
of my ties to the guys in the Genovese crew,
Right.
and I was butting heads with Nicky at that time, and I tried to get released, but he wouldn't. It would have been a perfect storm for me if I could have got around the Genovese crew in that instance, because I
And
was
who
already
knows?
spending so much time with them. As a matter of fact, it's so funny because when I went to federal prison, I had so many friends in the Genovese family because of my years with them that one of the counselors came up to me one day and we were talking, and it was just when I cooperated and I was in the hole. He came to see me. The guy, he goes, I always thought you were a Genovese guy, and I laughed. I said, here's a guy who he's just he just works for the Bureau of Prisons. Here he is. He's thinking in his mind, well, you're always with the Genovese guys, and I just assumed when I looked at your thing, he said, then I seen, and I just laughed. I said, yeah,
Just
just my,
because you're around them so much more, it seems
yeah,
like at one point than
yeah, of
the
course.
Gambinos and stuff. Because you had your problems with them, the issues and stuff, but
Yeah, yeah, and listen, it. I was a young guy. I was, full of piss and vinegar, if you want to say. I was in the street, with a gun in my hand. When you're younger, you think you're invincible. You know, you think it's never going to end, but it ends, brother. It does end.
oh yeah,
It
yeah, it
does end.
doesn't last for
Sometimes
long.
it doesn't end very well.
Right, and see whether you go to prison, you die, or some guys that make it out, man. There's some
Yeah,
guys that do,
some
and
guys that do. You know,
but
I look at I look at some guys who are success stories who changed their lives, and I would like to think that now that I've been working, I've had my share of businesses and stuff like that, and I would like to think at some point that I'm a success story. But while I'm still living and breathing, no, because like I told you before, it's challenging every day. So maybe there's gonna come a day where I'm sitting at home and I'm retired and I'm feeding the chickens and I know that all else I'm good. You
you're
know,
good. You're
yeah,
a
I'm good.
success story. Yeah,
But
you're a success story in the story in the making right now, right?
yeah,
That's what you
yeah,
call it.
exactly. And story in the making, a
Yeah,
hundred
because you
percent.
just yeah, there's daily challenges every day.
Daily
Um,
challenges for everybody.
did I read this one to you yet? I don't think so. It says, "What did Corozzo's think of Jim Brown and that entire faction?"
Jimmy Brown.
I think
Oh,
so.
I
I
mean
think that's
the guys from 86th Street,
I think that's
ATM.
what he yeah, I'm pretty
Jimmy
sure that's
Brown
what
had
he
the
meant.
club on 86th Street, I believe. Yeah, well, Jimmy Brown had big connections, but he was old school. Jimmy Brown was old school. I know that I could tell you this. When our media crew, we would talk about certain guys and certain things. I remember back in the day, I remember Nicky had high regard for Carmine Persico, high regard. High regard for Fat Andy because Fat Andy was his guy. That was his mentor growing up. Um, O'Neill was held in high regard. Um, Stuff like that. Jimmy Brown was a respected guy. Guy who had a lot of knowledge. It was around forever. The guy was an organized crime guy, but through and through. He ran the private sanitation industry back in the day. Um, Made a ton of money. And he was one of those guys. He was an old school guy. I believe that those guys, didn't like the whole Gotti move or what happened. You know, those guys were, they were old school where you just follow protocol.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, see, some of the guys, of course, they're gonna oppose and stuff.
So
So
to answer that question, I never heard Nicky talk ill about Jimmy Brown.
yeah. What about this one? It says from Pollock, I believe his name is. It says, ask him if he's still scared of Timmy Lansky
Timmy
or
Linsky, listen to me,
yeah.
kid, brother. Get this through your head. And let me tell you a story about Timmy Linsky. Want to talk about Timmy Linsky? Scared of Timmy Linsky. Count the hairs on Timmy Linsky's ass. And Timmy Linsky knows this. Tell you a long short of the story. A few years ago, way back when, I was shaking Timmy Linsky down for money because his brother was stupid enough to rob my little brother's gold chain. Real petty shit. So I taxed him for it. He was a fucking half-assed marijuana dealer at the time. Okay? And when Robert Arena was murdered, they had me on a separation from Timmy Linsky because the government wanted me to cooperate. But being scared of Timmy Linsky, my God, if I see him today and we were in the same room, you know what Timmy Linsky would do? He would turn around and fucking walk away because he knows better. How's that for your answer?
And see, I didn't even know that. My bad. I didn't know the whole thing behind that, man. I was just reading it
Nah,
as I
no
went
big
by.
deal. But if you want to fucking, they want to talk about scared, this, that, the government puts separation on people because the government has an agenda. The government
Yeah,
don't want people to be in certain prisons together so they don't talk or do whatever. That is it. If
yeah.
I would have ran into Timmy Linsky at any time, Timmy Linsky would have fucking been dealt with if he had to be dealt with. And know who knows this more than anybody? Timmy Linsky.
Yeah. Well, look, this one here, we says, "Good morning, fellas. Joey Bubbles. This is a good friend of Sal's. He's a good guy. Well, thanks for tuning in, Bubbles. Appreciate it, man." Let's see. Okay, here's one for you again. It says, this one's from Pasquale. He said, "Hey, Andrew and Adrian. Andrew, did you know Petey Bones Moseka? Mosaka?
Yeah, but he was an older guy. He was an older guy. Yeah, he was an older guy. He died many years ago.
Did you ever talk to him or anything like
I
that?
don't
Or
remember. I never had no business dealings with him, no. But I knew
no?
who he is. Yeah, I definitely did know who he was.
Yeah, see, this guy here, he came on the show with me and Sal one time, and his father was with, they called him the Pontiac brothers. They're old schooler
Oh,
kind of
Ernie
guys.
Pontiac, the guys from Harlem.
I believe so. And they were
Yeah,
drug
they were
dealers.
drug pushers. They were
Yeah,
selling heroin.
yeah. See, that's his father. So he came on and talked about his father and his uncle and stuff, and they
Well,
went way back.
they were part of the French Connection back in the day.
I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah, they were Harlem guys. Harlem guys were all big movers. There was a lot of guys in Harlem that made huge money over the years. Angelo Cheese made big money. They lived on they lived 2 or 3 doors away from Rayo's.
what's
I was away
Rayo's?
with
Is it
his
like a
son. I was
restaurant?
away with his son Joey Cupcake. Joey Cupcake was, of all the guys I met, incarcerated or on the street, Joey Cupcake had the biggest heart. And what I mean by biggest heart, he had the biggest heart as your friend, and he had the biggest heart as he was fearless, could give a shit less about anything. And he was in prison forever. Joey did a lot of time. Joey Cupcake, and he was a warrior. That kid, and he was like 175 pounds, and soaking wet, like 170 pounds. But he was a man's man, Joey. And I spent a lot of time with his father before his father passed. His father was a wise guy with the Lucchese crew, and his father had throat cancer. So I would go to visit him when I came home from prison on my first bid. I would go and I would meet him, and I would go to like Harlem. We'd have dinner together. We would go and eat together. We would hang out a little bit. He had so much history. That guy. He used to live in Vegas. He had Arabian horses with Wayne Newton. Stuff like that. He had a lot of history. That guy. You
Well,
know.
see, here, Pasquale had a follow up. He said Joey Cupcakes murdered my cousin's first cousin.
Yeah. I tell you what he did. Now Joey. Let me give you some info about Joey. No nonsense kid. I can tell you right now, no nonsense. If you were his friend, he'd give you the world, give you the shirt off his back. Joey's the type of guy you walk up to him and go, "Hey, Joe, where'd you get that chain? It's beautiful." If he liked you, take the chain right off his body and give it to you.
Really?
And then you keep it.
Damn.
I know he got in trouble not too long ago. I believe he stabbed somebody, or at least that's what the case is. I don't know anything about the case. I was sorry to hear that because I was kind of happy that he got home because I was away with him way back when. We were away together back in 1989, 1990. we were we used to be a cell apart. We spent a lot of time together, me and him. And I know he went away the first time. He got an 8 to life bid for drug dealing. He got caught dealing cocaine, I believe. And they gave him life on the back. And he was involved in so much violence inside of prison that they kept on hitting him with the parole board every 2 years. And if I remember correctly, I think his father got in trouble because I think they tried to bribe a parole commissioner to get him out after he kept on getting hit at the board. And then when he wound up getting out, I was happy for him. I really was. I had already cooperated at the time, so it wasn't like I was going to, spend any time with him. But I was happy to think that he was out. But then it was sad to hear that he went back in. I heard he got a lot of time this time around.
And then Pasquale had a follow up. He said Frank Gatto was my cousin's cousin. Was that something that
What's his name?
connects to that? Frank Gatto.
Frank Gatto? Yeah.
Gatto.
Yeah.
Was that who got killed? Is that who he's talking about, maybe?
Frank Gatto, I believe Frank Gatto might have been his next door neighbor.
Okay.
Because the story goes that it was the next door neighbor, from what I understand, got murdered years ago. That case.
So that
that might be the case. I didn't know the guy. I didn't know the guy. But
right.
I believe that was the one. I believe the guy was a drug dealer like Joey was or something, and something happened or whatever. But I don't really know any story about the murder itself. I don't know if Joey is culpable for the murder or anything. I don't know anything about that.
Don't want to say anything you don't know.
No, of course not. I would never do that to anybody. I'm not going to, talk about something out of turn. I hate to talk about things that I don't know about.
Well, yeah, and like here's one that you probably wouldn't even know this. Like Anthony here, I'm not knocking him or nothing like that. I'm just saying, but you wouldn't know like what this may be, but it says did Joey Cupcake ever talk about doing time with John Panisi? Like, would you know that?
I was with Joey maybe the first few years of his incarceration. He might have been with John Panisi because John Panisi did a lot of time. I think John Panisi did 20 years.
Damn.
I think John was away 20 years, 15 to 20 years. Don't hold me to it. I don't know the exact ins and outs of it. But Joey Cupcake was all over the system. When me and Joey we were in Coxsackie together, there was a state prison in New York called Coxsackie. It was a maximum security prison. We were there together. We got into some trouble. Together. I went to the hole. I was in the hole for 5 months. When I came out of the hole, they were still having trouble with the same guy. His name was Paddy O'Keefe, Irish kid, tough as nails. Paddy O'Keefe was a tough kid, good with his hands. He used to be years ago in the state prison system. They used to have boxing contests, and Paddy O'Keefe was one of the boxers, really good with his hands. But what happened was we had some connections in that prison. And then when I mean connections, we weren't, changing the world.
Hey, can everyone still hear us? I think it
Me?
might have cut out a little bit. I don't know. Please comment if you can hear us. I don't know if Andrew's still there or not, but
I'm
hey,
here.
Andrew, okay, all right. Sorry,
Yeah.
I think it cut out a little
the
bit.
story that I'm trying to tell you is that we were talking about Paddy O'Keefe. We had a
Okay.
problem with this kid, Paddy. He was good with his hands. He was a boxer kid. He used to box inside the state prison system. And when I came out of the hole, Joey was still beefing with him. And then one day, the kid came into the school building. We called it the school building to go to church. And another altercation ensued. Joey wind up, the kid wound up getting stabbed a few times or whatever. And we all got separated. I think they sent Joey to Elmira or Southport. I forget. They sent him to the hole in Southport, I think. And they locked us all down. They locked me down. They locked him down. There was a correction officer there years ago who was from the neighborhood. And he didn't do anything special for us, but, every once in a while we got a good job detail. I remember once I had a birthday cake,
Birthday
nothing
cake.
crazy. And this kid Patty didn't like the idea that we were making moves like that. Kept on making comments, this, that, the other thing. Joey Cupcake was not one to take it lightly. So, as it turned out, wound up stabbing Patty up a little bit, and that was it. We all went our separate ways because they broke us up after that. We all got transferred.
And then he got in more trouble for that then?
He got in more trouble for that, Joey. And then, so I was happy when he came out years later because I never thought, because he was always in it. He was always in it. And, but like I said, from my dealings with him, always a gentleman.
Yeah.
Always. And if he was your friend, he was a real friend.
Yeah, well, this next one here is just kind of saying you're a good guy and stuff, and so here, and it's about me too. So Tracy says, Adrian and Miss Adrian, congratulations, my lovely. Sending all my love and blessings to you both. Thank you, Tracy. And then this part's for you, Andrew. It says, "Hi, Andrew. Good to see you on Adrian's channel. He's a great guy and my friend too." Oh, thanks, Tracy. Andrew has a
Thank you,
really good
Tracy.
story.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's always got good comments, man. She's always really nice. Let's see. This guy here, I think he's got another podcast. He said Broken Home Podcast. That's his channel. He said, that's how we do it in our family. The cousins over a certain age just become our uncles.
Yeah, that's the way it is. And you grow up that way. You're not, and because there's an age gap there. And with my uncle, there was a level of respect there because of my
Mhm.
family. My uncle was a bigger than life figure. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of respect there. And so as you grow up, that's how you grow up, and you just follow that protocol.
Yeah. This one here is another one for you, Andrew. It says from Anthony. He says, "Can you talk about Nicky Corozzo pulling away Freddie in Florida from Anthony Ruggiano? This was in '95 or '96 when
What did he
he was
do?
he was. It says, can you talk about Nicky Corozzo pulling away Freddie in Florida from Anthony Ruggiano? This was in '95, '96 when he was talking about taking over the family and was on the panel. You know anything
Okay.
about that?
I do know that Anthony Ruggiano got caught up in the case with them back in the day.
Mhm.
They had the case in Florida where
Yeah.
Nicky they got in trouble. Nicky, Lenny, Anthony. There was a few other guys on the case. That case is kind of funny. One of the FBI agents in that case wind up stealing money from the evidence locker
Really?
that was supposed to be accounted for that case, and I think that helped them out a little bit on some of the charges. One of the agents had some sort of gambling problem or something. As far as him pulling Fred, is he speaking of Freddie Hot? Is that who he's speaking
They
about? I
just
don't
put
know.
Freddie, so maybe I mean if that's the only Freddie you could think of, I would.
Yeah, that's the only Freddie that I could think of. But I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I do know that Nicky was becoming the boss at the time because we did have a conversation about it right before he got locked up on that case. Um, I met Nicky in a diner on Flatbush Avenue with a few other crew members when he was discussing that he was going to be taking over the family, and because he was going to be dismantling the crew because the boss, Adrian, the way the rules of the organized crime circles are, a boss can't have a crew anymore
Hmm.
because then it shows favoritism.
Right.
So the crew gets broken up.
Mhm.
So during that meeting, he was telling us that once he does, who was going to be going with who. He let me know. He said he was undecided if I was going to be around Lenny DiMaria or he was going to perhaps put me with Mike Gennady. But it didn't matter to me. It was a win-win for both of me. Mike was my childhood friend at the time, and Lenny was, my God, I loved Lenny. Anybody in organized crime knows Lenny. You gotta like Lenny. You don't like Lenny, you don't like yourself.
So you
He
weren't
was
too
just
bad
a
about it.
gregarious guy. He was just a nice guy.
So at that point you were fine going over with him then.
Yeah, it didn't
No
matter to
problem.
me. I mean, I was with Lenny to begin with. Lenny was always Nicky's partner, so I answered to Lenny equally for many, many years.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. Lenny was so liked. Every guy, no matter where I was, whether I was incarcerated, whether I was on the street, whenever somebody would ask me how Nicky and Lenny were, they always asked about Lenny first. Hey, Andrew, how's Lenny? How's he doing? Send my love when you see him or you speak to him, whatever. How's that guy? How's Nicky? Nicky was always afterwards. Because Nicky used to hold people to the fire more. You understand? Nicky was more no nonsense. Nicky was more, he played by the rules. Nicky
And
knew
that,
those rules back and forth.
yeah.
He knew
So
those
that's
rules back and forth. So a lot of guys, Nicky used to call them out on their stuff. He took no shorts, Nicky.
yeah.
You know,
He lived by the rules.
100%. And I used to always have a saying because in the street, it's always easy to follow the rules when your pockets are full. When
Hmm.
your pockets are broke, you got to break some rules in order to get ahead. Anybody who's been in the street knows that.
And so the younger guys coming up, probably like around you and stuff, were more on that kind of mindset. You think?
Yeah, because you know what? The funny thing is that when you know the rules like he does, and you know the lay of the land like he did. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, they were talking about sit downs or whatever. Sit downs, it was never about who was right or wrong. Sit downs are an art form. Guys go to a sit down who have a reputation, who they're strong, they got a good crew behind them, they're well respected or whatever. Even if they're wrong, they're gonna come out of that sit down looking good.
That's just how it goes, huh?
This is how it goes. Some guys were good arguers. Some guys they knew how to finesse. They knew how to talk. They knew how to make the guy that they were talking to feel good about the outcome. It was. It's an art form. It's
Yes.
not always about right or wrong. It's about how strong you are. Like here, look, John and his crew talk about rules, right? John Senior and his crew, they broke every rule in the book, but they
They
were
did.
strong enough to break every rule in the book. Now,
Yeah.
if you're not strong enough to break these rules and you do, the punishment is death. The punishment is, you're going to get a beating or something. But when you're strong enough to break them, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, here's a question for you. They sent in a little super chat. Thank you, Joey. I appreciate that. He says, Andrew, did you like any mob content makers on here, like YouTube guys, or do you follow any of that?
You know what? I'm not a big social media guy, although I tend to I look at certain things that I think are interesting. There's a few guys out there that I do like. I don't know the names offhand. One guy did an interview not too long ago with uh, Anthony Reggiano. He did an interview. I see that he did an interview with I thought it was Johnny A. Light. I don't know if it was Johnny A. Light.
Hmm.
He's got a pretty good show. Um, and then there's certain guys that are friends of mine, guys that I know. When they have their podcast up, I'll listen. I'll support them by listening or whatever the case may be. Or if I know they're going to be talking about a certain subject today, I'll listen because I have knowledge of it,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's interesting to me. There's a few guys out here that are doing it correctly. The Invest in Yourself podcast, I love it. I
Oh,
do. I
of
love it.
course. Gotta
Yeah,
plug that.
I love it because you had a guy on. You had a guy on Louis Ferrenti.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Louis Ferrenti got a great story.
Oh yeah.
Now, listen, I cooperated. Louis Ferrenti's never, ever, ever, we're never going to see eye to eye anymore because I cooperated. And it is what it is. His life went one way, my life went the other. But Louis Ferrenti and me were incarcerated together.
Oh, I was just
He
about
was
to
a
ask.
great guy. I'm going to put it out there. He was a great guy. And,
Yeah.
from a little bit that I did, a little bit of time that I was with him, he was a gentleman. So when I see that he wrote his book or whatever, I found it very interesting because he's got a great story.
Yeah. I
He
mean,
really
he's
does. And he was doing some interviews on his podcast with guys like from other gangs in South America, and he was doing some guys from Italy, talking about how the landscape had changed there. Now they have what they call all these baby bosses, all
mhm,
these young kids
yeah.
in Italy. In Naples, you get a lot of that now. organized crime members are like teenagers now.
Damn. Well, see, Lou, I had him on 2 times, and you're right, he has a really good story, he's a great speaker, and a really good redemption story on top of that, so, yeah, he
Yeah,
is pretty cool, man. He's a great
you,
author too,
you
man.
know
He's
who he
written a
was
lot of
close
books.
with? He was close with Chin Gigante's daughter. He was very
Yeah, that
close.
he talked about that on the show too, so he
Yeah,
talked.
yeah, yeah. He's got, like I said, he had a great history. I mean, he was involved in similar stuff like I was. I think one of his cases he speaks about was an armored car robbery or something like
Yep.
that. So we have similar situation. Mine was bank robbery crew that I was with. I was with another crew of guys that did bank burglaries. So um, I look at his story and I follow it. I follow it because I liked him, number one, and number two, it's got good content, and it is what it is. And like you said, a great redemption story. I think he converted to Judaism, if I'm correct.
I we didn't go into the religion aspect of it, but, I mean, it's
I
possible.
think I
I
don't
think
want to talk out of turn, but I think he did. Because
yeah.
when I was away with him, we were in Otisville together. We would go, me and him, we would go, and we would go to church all the time together, me and him.
Damn, and see, so at that you never knew him on the street, I guess, or ran into
No, no, I
him or
never ran
anything
into
like
him
that?
on the street. He was from Queens, I was from Brooklyn.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but
We
it was
very
just
easily could
kind of the
have.
same time?
Yeah,
Yeah, he had a short, stint on the street because he got busted pretty early in his career is what he labeled it as because he got, busted pretty early,
yeah.
but then he went to prison for quite a while, and then so I guess you ran into him, but how long would you say you were around him then?
I would say maybe a year,
Damn, a
we
whole
would
year?
sit around each other, maybe a year, something like that.
Yeah.
1997, I think it was.
Yeah, did
97,
you
yeah. 97, 98, maybe.
yeah. I mean, he
Yeah.
said he was always reading books and stuff, so, like, he eventually got to that point. Was he real I mean, do you remember him just constantly reading or maybe not? Maybe I don't know
You
if
know
he was
what?
doing it early.
Well, here's what I do remember. We used to go to church together. We used to walk
Yeah.
the yard together. We used to talk about things, whatever, current events, whatever's happening in the world. He was a good kid. He was. He was a
Mhm.
good kid. And
Yeah.
listen, his story took him one way. My story took me another. We had different things happening in our lives at the time, and it is what it is. It's unfortunate, but sometimes you do meet good people along the way, and he was one of the good people that I met
Right.
along the way.
Yeah. Well, let's see. This one here says, "I always enjoy your live shows. Thanks and congratulations on your recent, I'm not sure what that word is, but yeah, I'm thinking, getting married and stuff." Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate you always tuning in and looking at the show. Let's see. Yeah, there's just people saying, "Yeah, true, great guy." They're talking about Lou, and then Vincent Gicanthi's daughter, they're saying, "Yeah, she's great too." I think this guy might be saying, let's see, he's talking about maybe one of the bosses over in, like what you were talking about, maybe in Italy or Sicily, something like that. It
Okay.
said 15-year-old son killed his best friend for liking his girlfriend's pic on Facebook. So that might be a family over there, like that last name, seems familiar.
What
But
is the last name?
it's hard to say, man. It's just that
Oh,
first word
I
there. Can you see it?
excuse me, Adrian, but I'm blind in one eye, brother. So it's so hard for me to read. Like when I'm looking on here, unless I
Oh
got
god.
glasses on, it's so hard.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like and then I don't even wanna I can't even say it, man, but it's like something Italian, man, but
spell
it's
it,
not
spell it to me.
Ndrangeta.
Oh, the Dragda.
You heard of them before?
Yeah, they're from Calabria.
Yeah, that's what I thought, not around here
No,
in the
no,
US.
they're Calabria. They are they are stronger than Cosa Nostra in Italy now.
Damn. Well, this guy was saying
They're a
that
lot stronger. Because for many, many years, Cosa Nostra in Italy was getting decimated by law enforcement. While all the focus was on Cosa Nostra, the guys from Calabria were building up, building up, building up, building up, building up. and they got really strong. I think they control like 70 to 80% of the drug trade in Europe.
That's terrible. That's insane, man. Like that
Yeah,
much. That's a lot.
yeah.
Wow. And see, that's their focus wasn't really on them at that time. I guess you're right because maybe
The
there was
focus was on
some,
Cosa Nostra back then.
yeah, just trying to eliminate them as much as possible.
You know, I've
But
seen
no,
a few guys over the years um, with these organizations, and they talk about, and these guys were on the run for so many years, and they show these bunkers that these guys were hiding out in and stuff like that. High tech stuff where the floor raises, they're underground, living like mole people. One guy was living behind the wall in his house for years before they got caught.
damn. Yeah, I mean that's they find their ways. They're just like El Chapo kind of stuff, man, digging tunnels and just trying to evade arrest as much as they can and
Yeah,
have a
of
long
course.
stint on the street, but that's not really a good way to live life either. I mean,
No,
either
it's
way, you're
not. I mean,
trapped.
listen. Being on the run, I was on the run for many times, and I was on the run for a long period of time. And listen, I've said this so many times in other interviews that I've done. It was probably the most stressful time period of my life. It'll age you. Being
Yeah.
on the run for an extended period of time will age you, 100%. It's just nonstop stress. Worrying about where your next dollar's coming from, worrying about getting money. Is somebody going to recognize me? Always trying to double back on your steps. If you're an organized crime figure, no matter who you are, whether you're an associate, whether you're a made guy, no matter who you are, after so many years of being in that life, you become an expert at counter surveillance.
Just
You
like
become you become
picking
an
up stuff.
because you're always watching your rear view, you're always watching who you're talking in front of, you're always watching who walked in a restaurant, what cars are outside, who's parked, whatever. Like my neighbors where I live, I could tell you everybody's car. I
I
can tell
get
you
it, yeah.
everybody's car. I don't know the license plates. I don't get into that, but I can tell you whose car it is. And
Yeah.
I know if I see a car that don't belong there, I know immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Because these old habits die hard. Because that's part of your survival skill.
That's
Because
what you were doing.
you're still in survival mode. I'll be in survival mode the rest of my life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how you programmed your brain coming up, like, just
Yeah,
that was life, and so you continue to do it, and,
yeah,
I mean, it's
exactly. You
not a
know,
terrible thing now.
well, because I have a healthy respect of what they could do to me, and I know the guys that know me have a healthy respect of what I could do to them. So
Mhm.
I don't sit here trying to, poke the bear or doing anything like that. I live my life, and I live my life, you know, the way I want to live my life now. And I never did that before. So that's another thing that I give myself a lot of credit for is I finally got my life back. It took a long time, but I did.
Yeah. Let's see, the next one here is, let's see, I think Anthony here, he had another one. He said, "Did you ever meet the Fed that went undercover on Nicky's crew that was selling swag out of the soccer club in Canarsie?" He said he was around
Yes,
95, 96,
yes,
97.
yes. I did meet him, and I'm so glad I never got caught up in that case because the day that they got locked up, I was on the run.
Oh, okay.
When they got locked up, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, they're gonna lock me up now. And then I was worried about that they would know my whereabouts afterwards. What happened was Lenny DiMaria was out on bail on that case. And no, he was out on bail on the first case from Florida.
Mhm.
And I remember, where was I? I was in Bay Ridge. And I walked into a restaurant, and of all people, I see Lenny's wife. And Lenny's wife tells me, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, well, and then we talked for 5 minutes because I was sitting at the next table from her. We talked for 5 minutes, and he got arrested on that second case. And then I had thought that they were going to know my whereabouts. They wind up finding out where I was anyway because I wound up meeting Lenny at a restaurant, and they arrested me within 2 or 3 days later. So they could have been watching him on that case. And when they got me, the guy told me, he goes, "Andrew, you're the last one.
Really?
You're the last one." And they grabbed me 3 days after that meeting.
Hmm.
I met him at a Chinese restaurant on Flatbush Avenue, And 3 days later, the FBI got my whereabouts. After that meeting, they followed me from there.
But you said you didn't go down on this case, like it wasn't
I didn't go down on that case. I went down on the. I had a parole
different.
violation, a weapons charge, and a bank robbery charge.
So how come you didn't go down on that first one then? Just because you
I
weren't
wasn't
really?
part of the swag. I didn't. I wasn't part
Oh,
of. I wasn't part of it. I know who the guy is, but I wasn't part of it.
damn. So they did have
So I was
someone.
happy because when the first case first came down, I didn't know what it was about, what it was not about. You know, I just when your immediate friends start getting locked up, you only assume you're next because if they're doing something, you're doing something.
Mhm.
Just so happens during that time period, I was in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, you were already worried because you were doing your own other stuff.
Yeah,
Lex here has said his question to you is, what happened with your uncle and Funzy
Fuzzy
Terrari?
Theory.
Yeah.
Um, Politics, brother. That's what happened. Um, my uncle was a captain in the Genovese family. Um, there were some things that happened over the years or whatever. Funzi was dying of throat cancer. He had throat cancer at the time, going back and forth into the hospitals. My uncle was doing a lot of, things for him at the time. Um, it was over. It was over politics. My uncle was a no nonsense guy, and he was very, So what happened was, push came to shove. Funzi gave the order, and that was it. That's what happens. And I think, it's a shame. I don't like to talk about it. I really don't. But it devastated my family at the time, and that's all I remember as a kid. I was very young when that did happen. But I did speak to people years later, guys who I became friendly with. I even spoke to Nicky about it one day, and he said it was just strictly politics. He said your uncle was a good man. He said it was just politics, and that's how that played out.
Was this Funzy? I don't even know who that
Funzi was
was.
the boss. Funzi was the boss of the Genovese family at the time.
Oh, damn.
Or call him street boss, whatever you want
Street
to call
boss.
it. He was the street boss.
Oh, okay. So the main boss was in prison, and then he was like the acting boss kind of thing.
Well, back then there was a few guys who were boss back then, like they had a panel or whatever they did. But I know that Funzi was the street boss for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. Bobby here. He says, "Hey Andrew, Vincent Gigante's daughter, so cool. Her story. I wonder how many other mob guys' children get high anxiety, etc., from their father's mob life. My daughter, I never knew about all her issues until later. So maybe he's just kind of relating something about his life
I'm
from.
sure. I'm sure there's plenty of people who they lived that life where their fathers were in trouble a lot, or they were incarcerated a long time, or something like that. I'm sure. Listen, when I came out of federal prison, I had anxiety, but I never took medication for it. But everybody gets it. Once in a while, everybody get. You can't be in that life and be in a fight or flight mode for 10 or better years of your life and not have it have some sort of ill effect on you.
Just always constantly worrying about
Yeah,
something.
so if your family members do, people don't realize that family members they get the blunt of it. So the wives get the blunt of it, kids get the blunt of it. So yeah, I would say that a lot of kids get affected with anxiety and they get affected with things, and they're not going to blame it on their father's lives or their brother's lives or whoever it is. But I'm sure at some point it crosses their mind. You know,
Yeah,
you're always. It's like Adrian. It's like always waiting for the shoe to drop. You understand? It's a horrible feeling for people. Always waiting for the door to come off the hinges because you're waiting for the FBI to kick it in or something like that. After a while, it takes its toll on a person.
and see, a lot of them have written books about their father's life or whatnot. Like, of course, like Vincent the Chin's daughter, and then Roy DeMayo's son, Albert DeMayo. Sal
Look
even
at
had
Albert
some.
DeMeo. Look at this kid. He died so young.
And see, that's what I heard. Like, I try to find him. I try to do an interview with him, but when I tried to find him, people said he offed himself, which I don't know for
He,
sure if that's true.
from what I understand, he was a drinker, but I don't know. See, I don't know I
I
didn't
don't
know
either.
him like that.
No.
So that I can't answer on. But it's a shame because, from what I understand, he died very young.
And see, in his book too, it talked about him like having those suicide thoughts before, and so at the end of the book, he wrapped it up and said life was good. I mean, for what it was worth, but like it's just
I think
I
the funny thing, what he says rings true. When he says there's another side to my father that people don't know, and I think that that rings true more than anything because when you're around your family, you leave the street in the street, and you're of course going to be a different person, and that's the way it is, and that's the way it should be. You shouldn't bring home these things from the street to your family. Your family has no need for them to be witness to that.
right and
So I can understand that. I remember him saying that in one of his interviews way back when, that there was another side to my man, my father, and that was important for him to have people see that.
in his book, he made that very clear throughout the whole thing because he just talked about
Yeah,
the things that he taught him and stuff, but then eventually, like, towards the end of, like, Roy DeMeo's life, that's when things got hectic, and the sins of the father started to
yeah,
affect the kid and the family and everything, of course, all that. All these guys coming after him and stuff, and just
yeah,
I think he got jumped one time and just a lot of bad stuff, but he would
yeah,
have been a good interview, man, seriously, because,
yeah.
I mean, that
Listen, listen.
I mean
The stories are never ending because of because of how severe his father's life was.
right.
Um, when you think of it that way. Um, But like anything else, everybody finds their way in that life somehow. When you're in that life, you find your avenue, your niche, what you're good at. Some guys are money makers. Other guys know that the only way they're going to climb the ladder is through violence or through this or that. Everybody finds their niche and they run with it. It's their
Mhm.
best attribute or they consider an attribute and they run with it, whatever it may be. Everybody has something. And
Yeah.
that's why organized crime guys pick you. You don't
Mhm.
pick them, they pick you. And they pick you for these reasons.
And they just see it yeah, they see it in you in the beginning,
Yeah,
whatever, they see potential, whatever it may be, but,
yeah.
uh, there's another guy was asking, he was wanting to know what your thoughts were on John Aley. I mean, you've been on his show before, and he was around the same time as you were on the street?
Yeah. I know John a very long time. John had an excellent story, great story. As a matter of fact, it's so funny. I was in Las Vegas when one of the guys on John's case, guy's name was Phil Barone. Phil Barone got arrested. He worked in a casino that I used to go to all the time. And he worked there as a security guard. And they arrested him out there.
Yeah,
And he got arrested on A Light's case. And I believe he had a murder charge with A Light. And but other than that, yeah, John had a great story. I don't know the ins and outs of the friendship he had with John Jr. or whatever. I know
right.
there's a long history there or whatever, and they go back and forth or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, but the story was great.
Did you know him back when you guys were on the street?
I had no business dealings with him. I
Oh,
I've been in settings guaranteed where he was because there was weddings and engagement parties and places that I've been that he had to be.
yeah.
So I'll
Just
put it
didn't
that way. I know he spoke about it on one of his interviews. I was involved in a murder conspiracy of somebody who was murdered many years ago. Um, I wasn't there when they actually killed him, but I definitely was a part of the overall conspiracy because I did try to hunt him, and we were trying to get information on his whereabouts. And everybody in my crew, we were taking the day and night shift to try to make this happen. And it just so happens that these guys caught him on one time, and he was killed. And A Light speaks about it uh, in one of his things later. We were talking about John Jr. and Nicky later, years later. Nicky made a comment that he, I think he had very bad intentions for John Jr. Let's put it that way. So I made it publicly. I let them know what my take on it was and what was said to me. with Nicky. And like I said, it could have been out of anger, it could have been out of anything. And then John A. Light made a comment that somebody came to him not too long after that, and they they spoke about that. So, that's where our stories did cross, you know, on the thing with John Jr., because somebody apparently at some point had asked him to do some work against John Jr., and it was discussed in my crew to kill John Jr.
You were thinking that that was kind of your mind state too. You were wanting to
Excuse me?
at that time. You were trying to go after John Jr. too, or no?
No, well, I was told that if Nicky was going to be going to jail, he said there'd be a lot of work to do, and we were going to start with John Jr. And that was the last I heard of it, but it was spoken of. And, you know, and I put it out there in a few other interviews I did, but it is what it is. And, I have no ill intent towards John or whatever. I was just one guy in a crew that was going to be doing what I was told. If that came to be, it would be, but it never happened. So there's really nothing to discuss about it.
Hmm. And see, that was just your mind state back then, just
Mindset
involved
is that
with
if
you.
Nicky said it had to happen, it would happen. But we never, nothing was followed up or whatever the case may be. And Nicky never brought it up again. And that was it.
Yeah, it's,
At least he
yeah.
never brought it up to me again.
Let's see.
I had got incarcerated a few months after that conversation anyway. Nicky got incarcerated a week after that conversation.
Yeah, things could have been a lot worse. I mean, if you
Yeah,
would
we
have.
all went to jail, and maybe that's why things went, awry. But
Mhm.
that's it. But
Yeah. Let's see. Bobby here has a question for you, a personal one. It said, "How's your relationship with your kids now, Andrew?"
I would say right now, for many years, I was estranged from I have a son. I was estranged from him because of I was away, and I was away for many years. But my relationship now is the way that it should be, and I'm thankful for that. But for many years, it wasn't. And and my son is a grown man. He's got his own life, his own things, and he does, and and we talk, and I'm happy, and I'm there for him if he needs me to be, and that's it. And that's the way that goes. And at least he knows that I'm there in a capacity in which I wasn't previously, and he knows that if he needs me, I'm there, and that's all I ever wanted him to know. And like any father should be. But for many years, I dropped the ball on that because of my lifestyle and for my extensive incarceration, and then going into the witness program afterwards. So it put a big strain. But now that's changed. That's behind me, and now I'm there for all my family the way I should be.
Yeah, I mean, you live and you learn, man. So,
Yeah,
I mean, you just have to try and do better now and be there for all your family. I mean, you know that.
exactly. That's the
You know
way.
that. Yeah. Let's see. We got some other ones in here. Wyatt said, "Hello, everyone." Lee just jumped on. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for just tuning in now, even if we're getting close to
We're
wrapping
getting
up.
close. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
good. Adrian, it's always a pleasure to speak to you, brother. It really
Yeah.
is.
It
Thank
is
you
with
for
you.
having me. If you ever want to talk, you call me anytime. Anytime.
Yeah. Well, I
It's my
appreciate
pleasure.
that.
But I'm gonna run too. I got family I'm gonna go and see today, actually.
Oh,
Um,
good.
but congratulations. Tell your wife I said congratulations. And you know what? Today's the first day of the rest of your life, kid. Think of it that way.
I know that's what we were thinking yesterday, man. Well,
Okay?
I,
Listen, do your thing. And if anybody wants to talk at a later date, just let me know. It'd be my pleasure.
yeah. Well, Andrew, I do appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. Like I said, you always got a really good perspective on life and everything now, and you just really changed your life around. And that's what I think is really cool about you. Yeah, we talk about the past, of course, because the past took us to the future. I mean, they
Yeah,
have
of
paved the
course.
way. So,
You know what? You always got to respect that because it brought you to exactly where you are today. And that's how I look at it. And I'm
yeah,
happy where I am today. So I wouldn't change a thing.
yeah. Well,
I'm,
good. I'm
I'm,
glad
I'm,
you're
I'm
doing.
blessed. I'm blessed in many ways.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're doing good things, Andrew. Keep doing them, man. We'll stay
All
in
right, brother.
touch.
You have a good day.
You too. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. That wraps up the show with Andrew. That was pretty good. I liked his story, and I'll just say if you haven't watched the interviews that dropped this week, I did the last episode with Sal. That came out yesterday. We did. I posted that, so if you haven't checked that out, go ahead and tune in on that. And then I did a midweek drop too with a guy named Will. He was a former drug addict that got finally got a grip on life and was able to beat drug addiction. And he had a really good story too. So please check that out. Next week, I got two good stories. I'm going to be dropping one with a former gang member and then another former mob associate from Canada. And he did a lot of other stuff too, but just check them out when they come out. And I'm just trying to figure out good times to drop them. I think maybe dropping interviews more late in the evening, and then they might work out better. I think more people will be able to watch them. A lot of people are working and stuff throughout the day and stuff. So just let me know. Comment too, whatever you like. Maybe you like getting them in the morning, or maybe you like watching interviews during the night when you're off work. I'm not sure, but just trying to figure out what works best for everyone. And I'm going to continue to do live shows. I got some lined up. Next Sunday, I'll be having a undercover ATF agent coming back on my show. We'll be doing a live show with him, Ignacio Esteban, and we'll be talking about the murder of Tupac. He wrote a book about it. So we'll cover that, and we'll keep going with it. And then I think the following week after that, I'll have a 9/11 survivor come on, and he's going to share his experience with just surviving that day. And if anyone has questions for him, you can ask him away. And then the following week after that, I got another mobster coming on, Derek Galanis. He was an associate of the Gambino family and stuff too. So he's another great live show guest that we'll have on. And my plan is to continue to do 2 interviews as well, with separate from the lives each week, and just drop them each week. So that's 3 episodes a week. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. So just share this video around. And if you want to access all my other interviews I've done, all you got to do is just go to the YouTube channel, click on Invest in Yourself podcasts on the playlist tab. You can see all those. There's this, you can see the shows I did with Sal on there, the live shows I've done with him as well, the live shows that I started a new playlist tab for that as well. So this is episode 2 of the live shows. And then yeah, and if you got any good interviews or any people that you'd like me to bring on, please comment them, and I'll check them out and I'll look into them. And if I feel they fit great with the show, I'll sure reach out to them and do my best to get a hold of them, because I like to get your guys' perspective on things, because you're the audience. You're going to be the one that wants to watch the show and be interested in it. So, yeah, let's see. Yeah, I see there's a couple comments in here. So yeah, I'll check these ones out once I get some time later this afternoon. But yeah, just keep staying tuned. I do appreciate everyone always supporting, and I'm just really focusing on making my show the main thing of this YouTube channel. Again, the Invest in Yourself podcast, of course. Continuing to be able to, I went from dropping 1 episode a week to dropping, now I'm going to be dropping 3. So of course the live and then 2 shows. So that'd be a lot more great content. Hopefully it helps my channel grow more. Oh yeah, here we go. Tommy Dates, yeah, he'd be a great guest. I've tried reaching out to him before. Maybe I can reach out to Michael Fecconi, who wrote a book with him, and maybe see if he can reach out to Tommy again for me. Let's see. Bobby says all your live shows are great. Thank you, Tom or Bobby. I appreciate that, man. You're good, man. I know you got a story yourself, man, and I'm glad you changed your life around, and you're doing great things too, man. Just stick with it, man, and stick with me too, man. We're gonna have a lot of good shows coming. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I got to talk about today. I'm glad the interview went better with Andrew today. The connection, we lost connection a couple times, but we kind of just pushed through it. And again, thank you, Joey, for that super chat, man. I do appreciate that. That goes a long way, even if it's just a little donation. All those help out, man. I don't care how much it is, man. I always appreciate those. Seriously. But yeah, I guess I'm just gonna enjoy the rest of my Sunday and chill out with the family and have a good time. But I just thought, you know what, I'm still gonna hop on here, stay consistent with my show, and continue to put out content for you guys, because that's always the main thing for me, is just staying consistent, and that's what's key in this. and learning new things and trying to figure out how to get better. I've been doing a lot of research and doing homework on how to make better thumbnails and titles and descriptions and catching people's attention with my shows and just really trying to figure out what's going to work. And I think me being me, I got to be not try and compare myself to other people in this whole podcast industry, thing, because I don't know. It's hard trying to not compare yourself. You're like, man, why is this show like this? And I'm pumping out all this stuff, but it's like I just got to stay true and stick to myself and put out good interviews because I don't want to step out of my comfort zone or my not comfort zone, but I don't want to step out of my way of thinking. Like, okay, I need to bring on this guest because this guy did it and he got a lot of views. Like, no, I got to think like, okay, I got to think for myself. I want to bring on the guys and the people that have good stories and that have good redemption stories and people that change their life around and the people that are going to continue to have success and that are not going to go back to crime. And whether or not there's a lot of controversial people out there, so I got to get better at doing my homework. I got to do that. I love doing research. I love reading books. I love doing all that kind of stuff. And I just got to get better at trying to get people on that really fit with my show and my brand because like I always said, but before I would just kind of interview whoever just for thinking I'm going to get a lot of views and stuff. But now this year 2024, man, it's all changed. I'm going to continue to just stick with who I think fits best because if not, I'm just going to continue to not feel good. Like not that I didn't feel good about the shows that I was putting out, but I didn't feel the best, and I didn't feel like I was getting my full potential out there like that. So I'm gonna continue to do that and stick with it, not step out of my zone. I'm on my own path. I'm on my own, I'm on my own marathon. In other words, because I don't need to. I'm going my own pace. I'm doing my own thing. I'm not comparing myself to anyone. Some people like to be involved with the drama and all that stuff, but that's not me. They want to do that, that's fine. I just feel like that takes away from the real content, the real stories that are supposed to be out there. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to continue to do. As he said, I think you and Jimmy Calandra would make a good team. You both are pretty mellow. Well, thank you. My buddy Colby Roy said the same thing actually, that he would be a really good guest to have come on the show, but I've tried reaching out to him a couple times and I didn't really hear much back, but I can sure try again. I mean, about me, I don't mind trying to reach back out a couple times because I know certain things happen in people's lives and times change and stuff. So I'll try again. That's what I can say. So, and then after that, if they don't reach back out, it is what it is. That's just, I reach out to quite a lot of people throughout the week. I really do. And this week I've been having a lot of success with scheduling people because for the next few weeks I already got 12 for this next month. I got everything planned out. So as long as no one cancels, we're good. I got 12 interviews ready to roll out. So yeah. Anybody got any questions or anything for me or anything, just let me know. And if you got any potential guests, let me know. Let me know what you'd like to see. Seriously, I love to hear back from everybody. And I appreciate as people are still in here listening. That's why I just kind of went on this little tangent, I suppose, on talking about the looks for this channel, the things that I'm going to continue to do. I'd like to put out merch too, but I just got to figure it out. I don't want to have too much. I just want to have a couple logos and designs and stuff like that. Maybe hats, shirts, hoodies, really. But if you would like to rock some invest in yourself gear, just tell me and comment and tell me what you'd like, a hoodie or a shirt or things you would like to see. But I always appreciate the feedback. I read every comment, whether it's hating or it's good, and a lot of them are always good. And I'm just telling you guys, I read them all, so it's not like I'm not checking them out and stuff. And I always try to get back to everyone, and whether it's them hating on the guest or whether they're appreciative, they're grateful for the show and the content that I'm putting out, that's fine. I make sure I read them all, and I love to hear them back because there are some comments that are like, "Hey, I like your channel. You can do this better. You can improve on this better." I love to hear those kind of things too. Oh, look at that, man. Another super chat right here. Thank you, man. You're awesome, man. Really, you're really great, man. Looking forward to your shows, man. Well, I appreciate that a lot. Like I said, that goes a long way. It really does. It really does. means a lot too because me and Sal, when we did our shows too together, we would get those super chats and stuff, and they go a long way because they really do. We the money that comes in off of YouTube is through the ads, and then the that's where you get all your money is through the ads and the views. Yeah, people can watch them, but if they're not watching the interview the whole way, you're not going to get your money like through it and stuff. So, and if people join in on live shows, there are a little bit of ads through them. I do put that on there, just the minimum ads, because I don't want a bunch of interruptions when we're doing the live shows. But that's why, the super chats, they go a long way. But thank you, everyone. And I'm out. Just got married. So we'll see everyone on the next one.